The lawyer's hands were shaking when she slid the folder across her desk toward me. She couldn't even look me in the eyes. "Mrs. Patterson," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to tell you this, but your daughter has been stealing from you for almost 3 years." I stared at the numbers on those pages, and my whole world collapsed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from when I still believed my daughter loved me. My name is Eleanor Patterson, Ellie. To those who know me well, I'm 68 years old, and until 18 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I spent 37 years as a pediatric nurse at Houston Methodist, holding the hands of sick children, comforting terrified parents, working double shifts when the flu season hit hard. My late husband, William, everyone called him Bill, ran a small auto repair shop in Katy for 40 years. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. We raised 2 daughters in a 3-bedroom brick house with a pecan tree in the backyard that Bill planted the year our first daughter was born. Bill passed away 6 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. One morning he was making pancakes and whistling that old Johnny Cash song he loved, and by noon he was gone. I held his hand in the ambulance, begging him to stay, but he was already somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't follow. His last words to me were strange. "Ellie," he whispered, squeezing my fingers, "don't forget about the shed. Promise me." I thought it was the confusion, the lack of oxygen to his brain. "I promise," I said, just to comfort him. Then he smiled, closed his eyes, and left me. After Bill died, I threw myself into work. The children at the hospital needed me, and honestly, I needed them. They kept me from drowning in grief. But at 66, my back couldn't handle the 12-hour shifts anymore, and the night rotations were destroying my sleep. I retired with a decent pension, the house paid off, about $420,000 in savings, and Bill's life insurance payout that I'd barely touched. I had 2 daughters. My oldest, Christine, was the ambitious one. Sharp as a tack, always calculating, always planning. She'd married young to a man named Derek Morrison, a financial advisor with a charming smile and expensive tastes. They lived in a big house in Sugar Land, drove European cars, sent their kids to private school. Christine managed the money, she always said. Derek brought in the clients, but she was the brains. My younger daughter, Melissa, was different. Quieter, gentler. She worked as a veterinary technician, married to a good man named Paul who taught high school history. They lived simply, happily, in a small house in Pearland with 2 rescue dogs and a garden full of tomatoes. Melissa worried about me after Bill died. "Mom," she'd say during our Sunday phone calls, "you shouldn't be alone in that big house. What if something happens?" Christine's concern was different, more practical. About a year after I retired, Christine came to visit. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Bill and I had shared thousands of meals, and she held my hands with tears in her eyes. "Mom," she said, "Derek and I have been talking. We're worried about you." "I'm fine, sweetheart." "You're not fine. You're 67, living alone, with no one to check on you. What if you fall? What if you have a stroke like Aunt Ruth? And honestly, Mom, the housing market is incredible right now. This house is worth at least $380,000. It's just sitting here, losing value, when it could be working for you." "Working for me?" "Derek has this investment opportunity. Commercial real estate fund, completely safe, 8% returns guaranteed. Mom, you could double your money in 10 years, and we'd move you into a beautiful assisted living community, one of those nice ones with the pool and the activities. You'd make friends, have people looking after you." "I don't need looking after, Christine. And I'm not ready for assisted living." "It's not assisted living, it's independent living with services. There's a difference." She pulled out brochures, glossy photos of smiling seniors playing cards and doing water aerobics. "The Willows at Memorial. It's gorgeous. And if you invest the house proceeds, plus some of your savings with Derek's fund, you'd have guaranteed income for life." I hesitated. The house did feel empty without Bill. And Christine seemed so sincere, so concerned. "Let me think about it," I said. Over the next month, Christine called every day. Derek came over with spreadsheets, projections, documents that looked official and complicated. They wore me down slowly, lovingly, with patience and persistence. "Mom, don't you trust us?" Christine asked one evening, her eyes wounded. "We're your family. We just want what's best for you." When Melissa heard about the plan, she was skeptical. "Mom, that's a lot of money. Have you had a lawyer look at this? An independent financial advisor?" "Derek is a financial advisor, Melissa. Derek is family. That's different. Please, just get a second opinion." But I didn't. Christine was my daughter. Derek was my son-in-law. They had 2 beautiful children who called me Grandma Ellie and made me drawings of flowers and rainbows. Why would they hurt me? In April of 2023, I signed the papers Christine and Derek put in front of me. I sold the house Bill and I had built our life in, the house with the pecan tree he'd planted, the house where my daughters took their first steps. I moved into a small apartment at the Willows, which wasn't nearly as nice as the brochures suggested. I transferred $540,000, everything from the house sale plus most of my savings, into an LLC that Derek had created. The Morrison Family Investment Trust, it was called. Christine and Derek were listed as managing partners. I was listed as a passive investor. "It's for liability protection," Derek explained with his charming smile. "Standard practice. You're completely protected." The first few months were fine. Christine would send me quarterly statements showing my investment growing. She called every week, sent photos of the grandkids. Everything seemed normal. Then the statements stopped coming. When I asked Christine about it in September, she was evasive. "The fund is restructuring, Mom. There's been some market volatility. Derek's handling it." When I asked again in October, she got irritated. "Mom, stop worrying. We know what we're doing. You don't understand finance." By November, she stopped returning my calls. I drove to their house in Sugar Land, the beautiful house with the 3-car garage that now, I realized, might have been paid for with my money. Derek answered the door. "Eleanor," he said. "Not Ellie, not Mom. Eleanor, this isn't a good time. I need to see the account statements. I need to know what's happening with my money. Christine told you. The fund is restructuring. These things take time. I want my money back." He laughed. Actually laughed. "It doesn't work like that. You signed the documents. The investment has a 5-year lockup period. You can't withdraw early. I never agreed to that." "You signed it, Eleanor. Page 17 of the partnership agreement. 5-year lockup, early withdrawal penalty of 50%. My head was spinning. "Let me talk to Christine. She doesn't want to talk to you right now. You're being irrational." "Irrational?" "Yes." His charming smile had turned cold. "In fact, Christine's been worried about you for a while. The confusion, the memory lapses, the paranoia. We think you might be developing dementia." I felt like I'd been slapped. "I don't have dementia. That's what people with dementia always say." He started closing the door. "We're looking into conservatorship options for your own protection." "Derek, wait." The door clicked shut. I stood on that porch for 10 minutes, unable to move. Then I drove home and called Melissa. "Mom, slow down," she said. "Start from the beginning." I told her everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Mom," Melissa said carefully, "Christine called me last week. She said you've been acting confused, forgetting things. She said you called her 20 times in one day screaming about money that doesn't exist." "That's a lie!" "Melissa," I called her 3 times. Normal calls, asking about my investment. "She said you're paranoid, that you're accusing Derek of stealing when he's been nothing but good to you." "Mom," she sounded really worried. "She thinks you need help." "I'm not crazy, Melissa." "I didn't say you were crazy. I said maybe you should see a doctor, just to rule things out. Please, Mom, for me." I hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Derek's cold eyes, Christine's unanswered calls. I got up at 3 in the morning and went through my filing cabinet. The folder with all the investment documents was gone. Every single paper I'd signed vanished. I tore the apartment apart. Nothing. The next day, I went to my bank. The savings account that had once held $420,000 now showed a balance of $8,342. "There must be a mistake," I told the teller. She pulled up my records. "No mistake, Mrs. Patterson. You authorized these wire transfers yourself. Here's your signature." I looked at the signature cards. They looked like my handwriting but slightly off. The E was wrong. Bill always teased me about my fancy E with the extra curl. These signatures had no curl. "I didn't authorize these," I said. "These are forgeries." The teller looked at me with pity. That's when I realized what I must look like. A confused old woman, claiming her family stole from her, insisting signatures were forged. I'd seen that look 1,000 times working at the hospital. It was the look people gave patients who were losing their grip on reality. I went to the police. The officer who took my report was polite but dismissive. "Ma'am, from what you're telling me, you willingly signed over money to your daughter and son-in-law. That's a civil matter, not criminal. The signatures are forged? Then you'll need to prove that in court. Have you considered that maybe you just don't remember signing?" "I'm not senile." "I didn't say you were, ma'am. But memory can be tricky at a certain age." I called lawyers. The first one wanted a $40,000 retainer. The second said elder fraud cases were difficult to prove without documentation. The third told me, kindly but firmly, that without evidence of forgery and with my limited resources, I was unlikely to find anyone willing to take my case. Christmas came. No call from Christine. No invitation to see my grandchildren. Melissa invited me to her house, but the dinner was awkward. I could see her watching me, checking if I repeated myself, noting when I paused to remember a word. Christine had poisoned her against me. "Mom," Melissa said as I was leaving, "have you thought about that doctor's appointment? Paul and I would go with you." "I don't need a doctor. I need a lawyer." She hugged me, but I felt the distance between us, a wall of doubt that Christine had built. In January, I got the eviction notice. The apartment at the Willows cost $3,000 a month, and I couldn't pay it. I had until the end of February to leave. I was 68 years old with $8,000, an $1,800 monthly Social Security check, and nowhere to go. My daughter had stolen everything, and the other daughter thought I was losing my mind. One night, I sat in my tiny apartment with a bottle of Bill's favorite bourbon, the one I'd been saving for a special occasion. I drank 2 glasses and stared at the bottle of blood pressure medication on my counter. 90 pills. I wondered if that would be enough. I picked up the phone and dialed Melissa. "Mom? It's 2 a.m. I just wanted to hear your voice." "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I wanted to tell you I love you, and I'm sorry if I've been difficult, and I want you to know, no matter what anyone says, I'm not crazy. I know what happened to me." "Mom, you're scaring me. I'm coming over." No, don't. I'm fine. I'm going to bed now. I just needed to say that. Good night, sweetheart." I hung up before she could respond. Then I sat there in the dark, thinking about Bill, about the life we'd built, about how it had all crumbled to nothing. That's when I remembered. Bill's last words, "Don't forget about the shed. Promise me." I'd never understood what he meant. The shed in the backyard of our old house was just a storage space, full of tools and old paint cans. But Bill had made me promise, and I'd never actually checked. My heart started pounding. The house had sold. The shed belonged to someone else now. But maybe, just maybe, at 3 a.m, I drove to Katy, to our old house. The new owners had painted it a different color, but the pecan tree was still there, taller now, spreading its branches over the yard where my girls used to play. The shed was still there too, behind the fence. I couldn't get to it. I sat in my car and cried. But then I noticed something. The house was dark. A "for rent" sign in the front yard. The new owners must have moved out. I came back the next day and knocked on doors. The neighbor, Mrs. Gutierrez, remembered me. "Oh, Ellie. The house has been empty for 2 months. The buyers got transferred to Seattle. They're trying to rent it out. Such a shame. They hardly even lived here." "Mrs. Gutierrez, this is going to sound crazy, but I need to get into my old shed. There's something of my husband's I left behind. Something important." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "The property manager gave me a key for emergencies. If anyone asks, you were checking for a water leak." I could have kissed her. The shed was smaller than I remembered, dusty, neglected. The new owners had cleared out most of Bill's tools, but in the corner, under a workbench that was built into the wall, I saw something. A loose floorboard. One that wasn't loose 6 years ago. My hands were shaking as I pried it up. Underneath was a metal lockbox. Inside the lockbox was an envelope with my name on it, in Bill's handwriting. I sat down on the dirty floor of that shed and opened it. My dearest Ellie, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong, and I'm not there to fix it. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so damn sorry. I need to tell you something I should have told you years ago. I never trusted Derek. Something about him always seemed off to me. The way he looked at our savings. The way he talked about money. The way Christine changed after she married him. I worried about what might happen to you after I was gone. So I took precautions. You know I always handled our taxes, our investments. What you don't know is that I set aside money over the years. Money that nobody knows about. Not Christine, not Melissa, not even our accountant. Just me. And now, you. There's a safety deposit box at Frost Bank on Westheimer Road. Box 892. The key is in this envelope. The box is in your name. I added you 10 years ago but never told you because I kept thinking we had more time. The annual fee is paid through 2028. Inside you'll find bonds. Treasury bonds I bought a little at a time since 1995. They've matured. Last I checked, they were worth about $115,000. Also, there are stock certificates. My brother Eddie left me shares in ExxonMobil when he died in 2001. I never sold them. There's about 600 shares. I don't know what they're worth now, but Eddie always said oil money was good money. There's also cash. $20,000. I know. It was stupid to keep cash, but I wanted you to have something you could access immediately without any bank nonsense. And there's one more thing. A letter. Read it when you need strength. Ellie, whatever happened, whatever brought you to this shed, I want you to know something. You are the love of my life. You are the strongest woman I've ever known. Remember when you worked 3 jobs so I could start the shop? Remember when you held our family together when I got hurt and couldn't work for 6 months? Remember when you sat with your mother for 2 years while she was dying and never complained? Not once? You can handle anything. You've proven it 1,000 times. Use this money to fight back. Get yourself a good lawyer. Don't let anyone tell you you're weak or confused or crazy. You're Eleanor May Patterson, and you're nobody's fool. I believe in you. I always have. I always will. All my love. Forever and beyond. Bill. I sat in that shed and sobbed until I had nothing left. My husband, dead for 6 years, was still protecting me, still believing in me when nobody else did. The next morning, I went to Frost Bank on Westheimer. The safety deposit box was exactly where Bill said it would be. The Treasury bonds were worth $118,000. The ExxonMobil stock, 612 shares, was worth over $72,000 at current prices. The cash was there, crisp 20s in neat bundles, and there was another envelope. My Ellie. If you've made it to this second letter, things must be really bad. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I wish I could be there to hold you. I want you to know something important. Whatever happened, however you got here, it is not your fault. You are not stupid for trusting family. You are not weak for believing in love. You are human, and humans trust and love and sometimes get hurt because of it. That's not a flaw. That's what makes you beautiful. But now it's time to fight. I know you, Ellie. I know you'd rather forgive than fight, rather let go than hold on. But some things are worth fighting for. Your dignity, your security, your right to be treated with respect by the people you gave everything to. So here's what I need you to do. Get mad. Not just sad, not just hurt. Mad. Channel that Patterson stubbornness I always loved about you. Find a lawyer who'll fight for you. Make whoever hurt you pay for it. Not for revenge. For justice. Because you deserve justice, and because letting people get away with hurting the vulnerable just means they'll hurt someone else. Then, when it's over, forgive. Not for them. For you. Because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Your mama used to say that, remember? You're going to be okay, Ellie. I made sure of it. And I'm watching over you every single day. Now go show them what Eleanor May Patterson is made of. Forever yours, Bill. I walked out of that bank with my head high. I had money now. I had proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't forgotten anything, that there was a reason to keep fighting. I found a lawyer. Her name was Victoria Tran, a former prosecutor who specialized in elder financial abuse. She worked out of a small office in Midtown and had a reputation for being relentless. "Mrs. Patterson," she said after reviewing my case for 2 hours, "your son-in-law is a piece of work, but we can beat him. The forged signatures, the fake LLC, the wire transfers. This is textbook elder exploitation. I've seen this pattern a dozen times. Can you prove it?" "I can prove it. But I need you to understand something. This is going to be hard. Your daughter will say terrible things about you. She'll claim you're incompetent, that you have dementia, that you're making everything up. Derek will hire expensive lawyers who'll try to destroy your credibility. Are you ready for that? I've spent 37 years working in pediatric nursing. I've held children while they died. I've told parents their baby wasn't going to make it. I've worked double shifts for a week straight during hurricane season. My own daughter stealing from me and calling me crazy? I looked her in the eye. I'm ready. Victoria smiled. Then let's get to work. The first thing we did was get a full psychiatric evaluation. I spent 4 hours with a neuropsychologist who tested every aspect of my cognitive function. The report was unequivocal. No signs of dementia, no memory impairment, no cognitive decline. Patient is alert, oriented, intelligent, and fully competent. We filed a civil lawsuit against Christine and Derek for fraud, elder financial exploitation, and breach of fiduciary duty. We filed a criminal complaint with the Harris County District Attorney's Office. Victoria hired a forensic document examiner who confirmed that the signatures on the wire transfers were forgeries. "The strokes are too smooth," the examiner testified in her deposition. "Natural signatures have hesitation marks, variations in pressure. These signatures were traced from a template. They're very good forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless." Derek hired a big downtown law firm. They filed motion after motion trying to get the case dismissed. They claimed I was a disgruntled investor who'd lost money and was now blaming her family. They submitted statements from Christine claiming I'd been showing signs of confusion for years. They even got a doctor, some quack who'd never met me, to submit a report suggesting I might have early-stage Alzheimer's. Victoria destroyed him on cross-examination. "Doctor, you've never examined Mrs. Patterson, correct?" "That's correct." "You've never spoken to her?" "No." "You based your opinion entirely on statements from the defendants, the very people accused of stealing from her?" "I based my opinion on the information provided to me." "Information provided by people who have 500,000 reasons to want Mrs. Patterson declared incompetent?" "Objection!" Derek's lawyer shouted. "Withdrawn," Victoria said. But she was smiling. The jury had heard enough. Melissa came to see me halfway through the lawsuit. "Mom," she said, sitting in my tiny apartment that I could now afford to keep, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I doubted you." "Why now?" "What changed?" "I talked to Christine. Really talked to her, pushed her for details about your supposed confusion. She couldn't give me any, just vague stuff. And when I asked to see the medical records she claimed to have, she got angry, defensive. That's when I knew. Knew what? That she was lying. That my sister, my own sister, has been lying to me about our mother." Melissa's voice broke. "How could she do this? How could she steal from you and then try to make everyone think you were crazy?" I took her hand. "I don't know, sweetheart. I've asked myself that 1,000 times. What can I do? How can I help?" "Testify. Tell them about the phone call where Christine tried to convince you I had dementia. Tell them about Derek's lies." Melissa nodded, tears running down her face. "I'll do it. Whatever you need." The trial was in October. Christine sat at the defendant's table with Derek, both of them in expensive clothes, both of them refusing to look at me. My grandchildren weren't there. I was grateful for that. Victoria presented our case methodically. The forged signatures, the fake LLC with no actual investments, the wire transfers to accounts controlled by Derek, the timing, how the money disappeared right after Derek's business started having problems. She called me to testify. I told my story simply, clearly, without tears. I described the life Bill and I had built, the trust I'd placed in my daughter, the devastation when I discovered the truth. Derek's lawyer tried to rattle me on cross-examination. "Mrs. Patterson, isn't it true that you've had memory problems?" "No, that's not true. But your daughter Christine has expressed concerns about your memory, hasn't she?" "My daughter Christine has stolen over $500,000 from me. Her concerns were part of the cover-up." "That's your opinion." "That's the documented truth, as the forensic evidence shows." He kept pushing, but I didn't waver. I'd spent 37 years dealing with difficult people, arrogant doctors who dismissed nurses, administrators who didn't listen, parents who were terrified and lashing out. One lawyer with an expensive suit wasn't going to break me. The turning point came when Victoria called Derek to testify. He'd been confident throughout the trial, smirking during testimony, whispering to Christine, acting like this was all a misunderstanding that would soon be cleared up. Victoria took him apart piece by piece. "Mr. Morrison, you're a licensed financial advisor, correct?" "Yes." "And you understand the fiduciary duties that come with managing someone else's money?" "Of course." "Can you explain why the Morrison Family Investment Trust, which was supposed to be investing Mrs. Patterson's money, never actually made any investments?" "That's not. The market conditions were difficult. And the account records show the money was transferred directly to your personal accounts within days of receipt. Is that your definition of investment?" "Those were operational expenses. $540,000 in operational expenses? For a trust that never operated?" He couldn't answer. He just sat there, his charming smile finally gone, looking like exactly what he was, a thief caught in the act. Christine was worse. When Victoria questioned her, she started crying. "I never meant to hurt my mother. We were trying to help her. Derek said it was all legal, that she'd agreed to everything. But you're the one who convinced her to sign the documents, aren't you?" "I thought it was a good investment. I trusted Derek." "And when your mother started asking questions, you're the one who told your sister she was developing dementia?" "I was worried about her. She was acting confused." Mrs. Patterson passed a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation with flying colors. The forensic examiner proved the signatures were forged. What exactly was she confused about, Mrs. Morrison? "The fact that you and your husband were stealing from her?" Christine broke down completely. "I'm sorry, Mom," she sobbed, looking at me for the first time. "I'm so sorry. It was Derek's idea. He said we'd pay you back. I never meant for it to go this far." I looked at my daughter crying on the witness stand, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not anger, pity. Pity for the woman she'd become, for the choices she'd made, for the life she'd built on lies and stolen money. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found Christine and Derek liable for fraud, elder financial exploitation, and breach of fiduciary duty. The judge ordered full restitution of all funds, plus $250,000 in punitive damages. Derek's financial advisor license was revoked. He faced criminal charges for theft and elder abuse. Christine was charged as an accessory. 3 months later, Derek pleaded guilty to avoid trial. He got 5 years in state prison. Christine got 3 years probation and 200 hours of community service, working at a senior center helping elderly victims of financial abuse. The judge said it was poetic justice. I wasn't sure there was any kind of justice that could undo what she'd done. I bought a small house in Pearland, not far from Melissa and Paul. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a little yard, a porch where I can sit and watch the sunset. I planted a pecan tree in the backyard, like the one Bill planted all those years ago. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping other elderly people who've been scammed by family members. There are more of us than you'd think. Good people who trusted the wrong person, loved the wrong way, believed too hard in family loyalty. I tell them my story. I tell them they're not stupid, they're not crazy, they're not alone. I tell them to fight. 6 months ago, I got a letter from Christine. It was postmarked from the senior center where she was doing her community service. "Mom, I don't expect you to read this. I wouldn't read it if I were you, but I need to write it anyway. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did, for what I let Derek convince me to do, for the lies I told about you. I'm sorry for trying to make everyone think you had dementia when you were sharper than I'll ever be. I'm sorry for taking the money Dad left you, money you and he earned through decades of hard work. I'm sorry for being too weak to say no to Derek. I'm sorry for caring more about our lifestyle than about your welfare. I'm sorry for being the kind of person who could do this to her own mother. Every day at the senior center, I meet people like you, elderly men and women whose families betrayed them, stole from them, abandoned them, and every day I think about what I did, and I hate myself a little more. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve to be your daughter. But I want you to know that I'm trying to become someone better. Someone Dad wouldn't be ashamed of. Someone who might, someday, deserve a second chance. I love you, Mom. I always did, even when I was too selfish and stupid to show it. Christine. I sat on my porch with that letter for a long time. The pecan tree Bill planted years ago was just a sapling, but it was growing strong. Like me. I wrote back, Christine, your father used to say that the measure of a person isn't who they are at their worst, but who they become after. You did a terrible thing. You hurt me deeply, in ways that will never fully heal. But you're my daughter, and I believe people can change. I'm not ready to see you yet. Maybe I never will be, but I hope you keep working at that senior center. I hope you keep meeting people like me, keep understanding the real cost of what you did. I hope you become someone your father would have been proud of. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace, because holding on to anger was killing me, because your father's letters taught me that forgiveness isn't about the person who hurt you, it's about freeing yourself. Don't contact me again unless you've truly changed. I'll know if you haven't. Mom. I mailed the letter and felt something release in my chest, something I'd been carrying for 2 years. My grandchildren, Christine's kids, Emma and Jacob, they're 12 and 9 now. I haven't seen them since before the trial. Melissa tells me they ask about me sometimes. Maybe someday their mother will let them visit. Maybe someday I'll hold them again, tell them stories about their grandfather, show them the pecan tree and explain why it matters. Or maybe not. Some wounds don't heal. Some trust can't be rebuilt. I've made my peace with that possibility. Last month, I went back to Houston Methodist to visit the pediatric ward. I brought books for the kids, toys for the playroom, cookies for the nurses who work the night shift. A young nurse, couldn't have been more than 25, asked me why I was there. I used to work here, I said. 37 years. Wow. What made you stay so long? I thought about it. The kids, and the nurses, and the feeling that what I did mattered, that at the end of every shift, I'd made someone's life a little better. She smiled. That's why I'm here too. I looked at her and saw myself, 50 years younger, full of hope and energy and faith that the world was basically good. I wanted to warn her. I wanted to tell her about daughters who steal and sons-in-law who lie and systems that fail you and people who will try to convince you you're crazy when you're the sanest person in the room. Instead, I said, hold on to that feeling. Even when it gets hard. Especially when it gets hard. She promised she would. I hope she keeps that promise. I'm 69 now. I have maybe 15, 20 good years left if I'm lucky. I plan to spend them doing exactly what I've been doing. Helping other elderly people fight back against fraud, volunteering at the hospital, sitting on my porch watching my pecan tree grow, and remembering the man who loved me enough to protect me even from beyond the grave. Bill's letters are framed on my wall, both of them. Every morning I read the last lines. You're going to be okay, Ellie. I made sure of it. He was right. He was always right about the things that mattered. I am okay. Not because everything turned out perfect, but because I survived. Because I fought back. Because I refused to let anyone, not my daughter, not her husband, not the doctors and lawyers and police officers who didn't believe me, tell me who I am. I'm Eleanor May Patterson. I'm 69 years old. I was a pediatric nurse for 37 years. I was married to the love of my life for 43 years. I raised 2 daughters, one of whom broke my heart and one of whom helped put it back together. I was betrayed by my own flesh and blood, and I came out the other side. I'm nobody's victim. I'm nobody's fool, and I think Bill would be proud.